afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. It's Alyssa Corum here. I'm joined by Ken Shreve. We're going to break down the action for the major indexes. Saw a little relief from a pretty bloody week last week. But before we get into that, Ken, give us a preview of a couple of bright spots today. Extra
Yeah,
bright.
strong day for some electric vehicle makers. So we'll take a look at Li Auto, which broke out of a base today. Take a look at Whirlpool as it test supported its 50-day moving average, and Align Technology really holding gains bullishly after earnings gap up in price.
All right, well, we begin with a look at the major indexes. Here's a chart of the Nasdaq. It is slightly delayed, but we did spend some time in negative territory today, Ken. But the Nasdaq did manage to end up 0.4% for the day, a little bit of a late burst in buying. We had the Dow finish up 1.6% and the S&P 500 up 1.2%. So what do you make of today's action, given that we did see a lot of heavy selling last week?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Nasdaq was up 1.5% intraday, and then it reversed lower, and I think it fell by as much as 0.7%. So it wasn't looking good there for a while. But then, as you mentioned, we had a pretty nice close, a late round of buying during the final few minutes of trading, and Nasdaq ended higher by about 0.4%. For most of the session, there was a lot of damage in large cap technology stocks. Amazon had been lagging for pretty much the whole session. Facebook under pressure. Apple under pressure. There was a sell-off in software stocks, but pretty good close for the Nasdaq as it tries to get back above the 11,000 level.
Yeah, not a great day for technology stocks largely, but we do want to go underneath the surface and take a look at some standouts, starting with Li Auto, ticker LI, which had a huge day up over 13% in heavy volume. A relatively recent new issue here, and it is on its way to a new closing high, back close to where it was trading in late August.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a classic breakout today over a 2196 buy point there, you can see. And it was actually a pretty volatile session, just like the broad market for Li Auto. It popped early, and then it came down sharply, and I think it came close to pretty much break even, and then rallied late into the close. So mentioned the electric vehicle makers, many of them in China, NIO, NIO, and Li Auto, and also Xpeng all reported strong delivery data. So that's what fueled the gains in these stocks. But so Li Auto is on the speculative side. They're known for their electric SUVs. They did 120 million in sales in their latest reported quarter, but not profitable yet. But still a lot to like about the company.
Yeah, and I also really like this relative strength line at a new high as the stock breaks out, underscoring, of course, that outperformance today. Although a breakout like this is typically actionable, overall market conditions, again, while we did have an up day today, given what we have seen over the last couple of weeks, doesn't really put us in a position to feel confident with aggressively making new buys.
No, I mean, we looked at an up day for the Nasdaq today, but it's still firmly below its 50-day moving average. And the Dow, S&P 500, and Nasdaq last week they suffered weekly losses of more than 5%. That was the worst since March. So the market is still has a bit of a headwind here, and keeping an eye on actionable charts, but understanding that when the market tide is flowing negative, you really don't want to be aggressively allocating capital in the market. So I'm sure there were obviously some buyers in Li Auto today, but market conditions are still very, very suspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in terms of our approach to the market, if you are an aggressive investor for these actionable stocks, potentially you could nibble a little bit, but just keep that risk level in mind when you are making new buys with the market in the kind of condition that it's in. And moving on, let's take a look at Whirlpool, WHR. It had a downside reversal when we were looking at this stock not all too long ago, and it's pulled back to that 50-day line, a nice rebound off of that level today.
Yeah, I mean, this is really just a classic test of a prior buy point here, 186.06. Now, the issue here is that when it topped 200 on a strong earnings report, and it reversed lower, so it technically has erased a double-digit gain from the buy point. So even though Whirlpool is testing its last buy area and making a nice stand at its 50-day moving average today, the chart is still a little bit suspicious just because it erased that double-digit gain. But like the fact that it's finding support here, and when they did report earnings several days ago, there was a lot of good news in the report. You can see the earnings of 691 a share. That was well above the estimate of 375, and sales of 5.29 billion was also well ahead of expectations. And the company said demand was outstripping supply. So it was a good earnings report, and growth prospects look pretty good for Whirlpool. And overall, like the look of the chart.
All right, and last but not least, let's check in on Align Technology, ALG, and a strong day here, up almost 8%. And this stock has shown incredible strength since gapping up on its quarterly earnings report not all too long ago. The move coming on 10/22 of 35%, if you can believe it, and it's been able to impressively hold those gains.
Yeah, and we always like to see that when a stock gaps up in price. And you mentioned the earnings gap. This was on a very, very strong quarterly report. You can see the bottom line and the top line growth. There you go, right at the bottom. And this is the company that's known for its Invisalign tooth straightening system, an alternative to braces. And demand looks pretty good. And you can see a big annual earnings estimate in 2021. Earnings this year expected to fall a little bit, but then really rise sharply next year. So fundamentally a lot to like, and technically a lot to like as well, because the way this stock is digesting that huge weekly gain is very impressive. Trading tightly, holding near highs. Price action like this can often present additional buy points down the line.
Yeah, and we will be keeping a close watch on those additional buy points. And also really impressive to see when you flip over to this monthly chart, the stock breaking out into new highs after spending quite a while in a pretty choppy area. Now, but this is a former leader. It's proven that it can go on big runs in the past. And there's clearly a changing fundamental element here, with this move like we saw, and we're going to keep an eye on it from here. So thank you for breaking that down, Ken.
Yeah, I like all the different perspectives that a daily chart and a weekly chart and a monthly chart give you when you're kind of assessing a stock's prospects for further gains. So the daily chart shows the stock holding gains after that gap up, and the weekly chart shows that huge weekly gain and trading tightly near highs, and then you showed that monthly chart that's nice breakout on the monthly. So looks pretty good.
Yeah, and I know a place where we look at a heck of a lot more daily, weekly, and monthly charts, Ken. Where's that?
That's going to be on IBD Live every morning at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:20 a.m. on the West Coast. We've got Election Day tomorrow, so it was a lively show this morning. So if you haven't checked it out, to check out a 2-week trial, and we start early and go for more than an hour each morning discussing the news and actionable stocks when we see them.
That's right. And the last couple of weeks have been pretty interesting. We saw this pullback that has then turned into something a little bit more substantial to the downside, but we're going to stay flexible. We're looking at every indication that the market is turning around. There's still a lot of uncertainties out there, but the market could shift either higher or lower very rapidly. We're not certain of that. It's not our job to predict, but it's definitely our job to stay in step with what the market throws at us.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's we don't want to get too excited about a nice close for the market today and a green day, but we could see a sign of strength in the market as early by the end of this week, frankly. So that's why you want to read the big picture column. And if we get a buy signal in the market, we will talk about it in the big picture and of course on IBD Live.
That's right. We've got you covered. So make sure to check us out, our content over at investors.com, as well as IB Live, investors.com/IB Live. Thanks for tuning in, you guys, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.